We're talking to the great Brad Sham, the voice of the Cowboys, Larry Krueger and Damon Bruce with you on a Friday. Brad, how is this offense different under Brian Schottenheimer than it was under Kellen Moore? It seems like there's some changes and some differences in how the Cowboys are going about their business.
Yeah, Larry, I would say Schottenheimer is the coordinator. It's McCarthy's offense. Mike McCarthy's calling the plays. Schottenheimer is kind of putting in the plan with supervision and guidance throughout the week. And I don't think we know the answer yet, because the truth is this is week 5 and the sample size is still fairly small, and there's still enough caveats to every game that you can say, and I think it's accurate in the Cowboys case. They went to New Jersey, it was raining, they got way out ahead, and so you don't have to open things up. And then in game 2 against the Jets, it wasn't raining, but they got ahead and you didn't have to open things up. And then you laid an egg against the Cardinals for whatever reason. They just cannot play in that building. And then the defense put them up in the last week's game against New England. And so you don't have to really open things. So I don't know if we know yet what their offense is. I do think that it's technique stuff. It's specifics in footwork for the quarterback and route trees and how the receivers run the branches of those trees. They're things that coaches would understand and players would understand if they saw them. And most of us, we understand the concept, but you couldn't say exactly. It'll take a year of playing it to say, oh, okay, now I see what the difference is. We don't really know what the wide receiver involvement will be because they haven't had to throw to him much. So CeeDee Lamb's got one. He's got the only touchdown to a wide receiver so far. Some people down here are alarmed about that. I don't know why you would care who's scoring them as long as you're scoring them. But people for fantasy football and other reasons, I guess, do care. But I don't think we've seen anything of Brandon Cooks yet, and I don't think we've seen him open up everything that all of the wide receivers can do. And over time, they'll have to do some of it probably this week. But 5 weeks into a 17-game season, I think it's a little too early to say, here's the difference.
I thought a huge difference in last year's playoff win for the Niners over the Cowboys was the Tony Pollard injury. As soon as he went out of that game, it changed the way that game felt for Dallas. Obviously, checking Tony Pollard is what the 49ers need to do. Is this a significantly better Cowboys team in your mind than last year's team? About the same? Like you said, we've only played 4 games, so we really don't have the feel for anyone. But comparing and contrasting last year to this year, what's the difference? Knowing that the playoff game, the difference was that injury to Pollard.
I completely agree with that. The minute he went out, you could tell that CeeDee Lamb was all ahead. There were I really think that's the biggest reason that Prescott had an unusual number of interceptions when he came back from his injury last year. He could look out there and he didn't have any playmakers, and quarterbacks will tend then to try to hit 6-run homers if they don't think they've got the people who are in place to make the plays. So one of the things coming into the year that makes them different is Michael Gallup was a shadow of himself last year because he was coming off debilitating ACL at the end of the year. Jalen Tolbert was lost. He had no clue. And both of those players are significantly enough improved that it's almost like acquiring a new player. And then you added Cooks. So now you've got some playmakers. Now, yeah, once they lost Pollard, they had no chance. I didn't think they would not agree with that, but that's the way it looked to me also. And so, if he's healthy for the whole game, that makes a difference. And Dalton Schultz was a big part of what they did, but he was playing on one knee. And I think they've got some depth and versatility at the tight end position. So I do think they are better in the weapons department. when everybody's healthy than they were a year ago. Now, if Pollard were to get hurt again, they'd still be in a pickle, but they have more options than they did when he got hurt last year. If that answers.
Has anyone ever come up with a decent explanation as to what the final play of that game was supposed to be with Zeke snapping? And I still don't understand it. I've watched it 40 times.
And I don't care anymore. That's
fair enough. Fair enough.
That one's gone. Can't have it back. It's not coming back.
We're talking to Brad Sham, and it's a real pleasure to have the voice of the Cowboys with us. Trey Lance, of course, traded by the 49ers to the Cowboys. And there's a lot of talk this week about Trey, sharing whatever intel he knows about the 49ers with Dallas. And these angles I think are a little bit overblown. But have you had a chance, Brad, to talk to Trey? And I'm sure you had a chance to meet him. What are your impressions of the young man? Because I think here people really were in love with him as a person and just didn't have the patience to wait out the development. And now the Cowboys will have that opportunity. But what do you think of Trey as a young man? Have you had a chance to talk to him?
Yeah, a little bit. I mean, I haven't tried to bother him this week, and I agree with you, Larry. They're not going to find out very much from him that they didn't know. I mean, don't forget Shanahan and the defensive coordinator here were together significantly for a number of years in Atlanta. They know each other pretty well. They know each other's personnel. I mean, Trey's obviously a really interesting story. He is a delightful young man. He was put in a pretty tough position. I mean, same thing about the young guy with the Jets right now. They're put in pretty tough positions. The NFL has gotten to overdrafting quarterbacks, and the guy who pays the biggest price is the quarterback who is not able to live up to it. And so that's Carson Wentz. That's been, you can go back years and see guys who were drafted in the first round, high in the first round, didn't pan out. A lot of pressure on Trey in San Francisco, especially before Brock Purdy became Brock Purdy. And that, I mean, that's, what did he play? Basically 1 year at North Dakota State.
Right.
Yeah. I mean, it takes a little longer than that. It's a tough position. He seems to be a mature, level-headed young man. Sometimes these guys in positions like that need a change of scenery where the people who they're working for don't have their livelihoods tied to his success. And that's a lot of pressure for a young man like that to carry. And the Cowboys gave up a draft pick, but they didn't draft him. So if it doesn't work out, it doesn't work out. And if it does, then hooray. Then they've got, they can make decisions later on. We're only week 5 of this season, but I'm really interested to see him next year and in preseason and training camp, see how he develops and see what they've decided are his strengths. And I mean, we got a whole lot to go between now and then, but they had a high second round grade on him. So they might not have had him as the third player in the draft, but they had a high second round grade on him. So everybody agreed he was a talent, and he's a delightful young man to be around. So I'm interested to see how his career works out, and because he seems like such a good guy, I wish him well.
I know that you've got many commitments. Broadcasters are always busy on a Friday, so we'll let you go here. But Larry and I have been talking to 49ers fans, Brad, for the better part of 20 years about what makes the rivalry with the Cowboys so special to them. From the Cowboys' perspective, what makes the Cowboys 49ers rivalry so special to you?
Just the history. I mean, some of it predates me, but there were great games at Kezar Stadium. Playoff games, John Brody, Larry Cole. I got a picture of Larry Cole rolling around in the grass at the end of the game after the Cowboys intercepted a pass. And so the playoff rivalry goes back that far. And then in the 70s, obviously, when Joe and Steve Young and the rest of them came onto the scene, and Dallas was a good team. And so those were some very high profile games. And, then fast forward 15 or 20 years to really critical games at the time of year when everyone's watching in the 90s, and they went back and forth, and all of that adds to a pretty rich tradition. And it doesn't take 49er fans much to call up memories of Montana and Young and all the Jerry Rice, all the great players they had. Here's the thing that a lot of us forget, and teams forget it, I think. Players come and go. Executives come and go. Coaches come and go. You know who doesn't come and go? The fans.
Right.
The fans who are watching these games, the fans who are going to be listening, watching, or at this game Sunday night, many of them are the same ones who watched the Catch game. Some of them were told about or were at or watched games from Kezar. And they're the same. That's what makes it go. That's what makes it live. You just need every generation or so to have a couple of big playoff games like these two teams have had to make it be a rivalry. And so that's probably going to continue that way for a while.
Brad, we love you. You do a great job. You won the Texas Sportscaster of the Year award 11 times. You're a member of the Texas Radio Hall of Fame. My last one on your way out the door is Jerry Jones is so polarizing, Brad, but you know him, and you've had a chance to have many conversations through the years with him. Give us some insight into Jerry that we don't have here, because he's one of the most polarizing and strong figures in the history of the NFL.
And just like Tex Schramm was before him. And when when Jerry bought the team and tensions were high and he and Tex really didn't get along for a while, and then Jerry, it turned out really just a few months before Tex passed away, put Tex in the Ring of Honor. And through the years, I've told Jerry more than once, you and Schramm are more alike than either of you would ever have wanted to admit. Tex Schramm was a very polarizing figure in the league, outspoken. People used to say, do you think you've been accused of being arrogant? You think you're arrogant? And he would say, damn right I'm arrogant. And he wanted his team to be arrogant. He wanted them to have something to be arrogant about. Jerry he's been really good to me. He's treated me well and fairly. And I think it's clear that he's an exceptional owner. I think he earned his Hall of Fame jacket by what he did for the league. He wouldn't have gotten the attention to do it if they hadn't won the Super Bowls in the 90s. But that's not why he is in the Hall of Fame. He's in the Hall of Fame because of the contributions that he made to the league. We forget about 30 years ago when he wanted to bring Nike in and do his own marketing deals. And at the time, it was all for one and one for all, and nobody went their own way. And Jerry said, no, I don't think we have to be thumbing our nose at the league to do it that way. And so he did it a different way. And next thing you know, everybody's doing it the way he was doing. Money finds him. Owners tend to like that. And he is polarizing. There's no doubt. And he likes the spotlight, and he likes controversy. He likes that stuff. And, a lot of CEOs don't. He does. We accept that. And we know there's going to be some interesting things. I don't know how many owners have, twice weekly radio shows and press conferences outside the locker room right after the game. He likes that stuff. Okay. It certainly has made life interesting. And personally, I find him to be really engaging and fun to be around, and I wouldn't want to cross him.
Safe travels out here to the West Coast. If I get a chance during the game, I'll if I see you in the press box, I'll come over and shake hands.
Please, come on in.
Really a huge fan of your work. We know you got a radio interview bottom of the hour. We'll let you go. Nothing but respect. Safe travels, and we wish you a great call Sunday night. Thanks again for coming on.
You bet. Thanks for having me, guys.
Thank you, Brad.
The great Brad Sham.
That's a real proper Texas gentleman right there, Larry.
Fantastic.
That's proper. That is when we go and put together the list of legendary Dallas Cowboys. He's in the top 20. I mean, I know we're thinking about just players. This guy's been around. He's been around as long as the star on the helmet. Yeah. I mean, he really has been. So